Welcome everyone back to Fort Operating Base Lake Fork. I'm Greg Hill. I'm your host of your fishing show today. This is going to be your Lake Fork fishing report for the 30th of June 2022. It's been about 2 weeks since my last report. The water temperatures are sitting right in the morning about 87 already. We had a little cool weather. It came in here earlier this week. Cooled it down just a little bit, but now it's going to be warming back up. So I expect the temperature to get back, to where they were. But with the water temperatures in the surface in the 87s in the morning, it's heating up 89ish, by the afternoon in some places. The water level is down to basically 6.25 feet low. So we are below pool, and with no real foreseeable big rains, it might just slowly keep coming down a little bit at a time. And here I'm getting ready to shoot the report early. It was perfectly calm. There's no wind, and now I'm getting some wind coming there. So I hope it's not too distracting. But I'll try to get this report done before the wind gets too strong. It must be just the evening time wind that's coming in. So I'll try to go through it pretty quick. So my game plan in the morning still has been to go to the top water or a little chicken rig or a little Carolina rig. So try to get some really shallow bites just to start off with in the morning, especially as the moon starts getting more and more, the moons start coming out more. It'll bring, I think, some of that bait fish up to the shallow water first thing in the morning. We had a waning moon and there's almost no moon, and I don't think that brings as much fish up into that shallow water when there's no light. But as the moon gets stronger, we should have more fish moving there into the shallows for that morning bite. So I'm still going in the mornings for the most part, and starting off with a Zara spook. I'm throwing the more natural color, but I am throwing the bone color as well. Sometimes I'm working it fast if the wind's blowing on the point, and then sometimes I'm working it pretty slow if it's kind of calm and giving a chance to the fish to really kind of to pick it up. I think you have to create some more disturbance when there's more wind and waves for them to see it. But if there's no wind and waves, and you can overdo it, and the fish might not be hitting it. And then also I'm throwing a whopper plopper in kind of a same thing. It's kind of a standard shad color that you can see, not the largest ones. And because biggest fish in the morning on the top water has been around 6 pounds, but we had 4, 5, 6s. But nothing bigger than that. I haven't had just a huge fish on top water, but I'm still catching some fish. So your other choice in the morning is to go straight out to a brush pile or straight out to a bluegill bed that where there is. But I wouldn't go starting off deep. I wouldn't go right out to my deeper brush piles yet, because I just don't think the fish are going to move up a little bit at nighttime. So I'm targeting the top water between a foot deep down to probably 3 feet deep for the top water. Those chicken rigs, which is just a mini Carolina rig with a little pegged bullet weight on it with about 12 inches of leader back behind it, and with a fluke on it, just red flake or something like that. I'm dyeing the chartreuse, the tail chartreuse still. So throwing that out there, kind of working the same area, same place you work the top water. I've thrown a Carolina rig out there with a 4-foot leader when the wind's up on some place, and if it's a nice hard point, I got a 1 ounce tungsten weight on there. I got braided line, I got 50-pound braid with a 20-pound fluoro leader on there. I can feel pretty much every little bump that weight comes across, so it really transmits the feeling of the bottom. And what I've noticed in some places, when I'm feeling those really hard bottoms, and if the wind's blowing so hard that it's actually almost between just the current that's pulling that fluke, it actually makes the weight move a little bit. It rolls sideways if the wind's coming sideways. And getting bites doing that. And so after that, I'm pretty much going out and targeting either bluegill beds, brush piles, and I have gone out deeper now, and I'm doing out there and doing some deep cranking. I threw a spoon and I threw an Alabama rig. I've only caught one fish on an Alabama rig so far. I caught more fish on 10XDs, and I'm throwing those in, again, a kind of standard shad color here. You can see it on there. I'm just, a lot of places here You can go into those deep water, long offshore points, look with your electronics, see if you see anything, see any bait fish. You might not see the fish. You can still throw that through there and see if you can pick up some fish. I've noticed that a lot of these fish that I'm seeing, sometimes they're coming right off the bottom. So you can't see them a little bit, and then all of a sudden they'll just come right off the bottom at a bait when it's coming over there. So you want to get your bait down there pretty close to the bottom, I think, at least right now. I haven't really seen too many of the suspending fish schools that I expect to start seeing here pretty soon. And okay, so now what I'm going to really talk about targeting bluegill beds, because it has been a solid performer for the last 2 weeks. And the majority of the fish that you've seen on my social media and my posts are coming off of bluegill beds. They're either coming out of brush piles or they're coming off of bluegill beds. You know, I've caught some out there in the deeper crankbaits, but they haven't been as big as the fish I've caught doing the brush piles or the bluegill beds. So, you know, I really want to try to find more deep fish, but I just haven't found them. I mean, I go in my electronics, I've looked and looked, and I found some in a couple places, but they weren't really balled up and chasing these balled up schools of bait. They were more scattered. I had a friend who found some the other day, and that's great. And you know, you just got to keep moving around and try to find them. Remember, if they're schooling up in these big mega schools, that means there's a lot of places where they aren't anymore. So you really got to move around to try to find that school so you can kind of get into them. So I would think about that. Okay, so what am I doing to throw into these bluegill beds? Well, I'll tell you, it's really come down to kind of 3 lures. I went and bought 6 kind of worms, and I'm going to do a whole separate episode just on the worms I did and kind of, you know, what I did to them to test them and which ones floated and which ones stand up when you got them on a shaky head, which ones are falling or heavy and sinking. So it really could make a difference on, you know, how the presentation of them that you use. But I am Texas rigging them. I am shaky head rigging it. I am kind of a cross between a football head and a shaky head, throwing that. And I'm throwing the swivel football heads. So I've thrown all the different ways you can throw the worm, and I've caught them fish in all the different ways. I still think that the shaky head is catching more fish between the shaky head and the combination football shaky head. The Texas rig, though, came alive the other day because we were maybe in a little thicker stuff. And look, we've been getting broken off. You know, I gotta tell you, you come here from different places. Make sure you are checking your drag. Make sure you're checking your line, and you have to retie. Go ahead and just retie. It's much better to retie every once in a while. Check that line. You know, we were catching fish down by some trees, and we had caught one. Had been stuck on a tree in a couple places, and I think it just nicked and rubbed the line, and then we ended up breaking off a decent fish. So make sure you're not doing that. So okay, let's get into the worms I'm using. So look, I'm basically using a couple different brands. I'm using the Strike King KVD bull worms. I'm using the Yum Mighty worms, and I'm using these Excite worms. So, you know, they're all been working great. So the colors have been doing best. Have been like in a black blue color. So there's a couple different colors out there. You know, a June bug, you know, color that's on there. So this is the bull worm, you know, black fleck or blue fleck. So think about these baits. They have just little differences to them. You know, the bull worm has this big tail on it. You know, it's a it's a thick worm, but it's also got this just big oversized tail on it, real thick. And then, you know, the Excite worm's not as good. The Yum worm, it's not as good. It's got a thinner tail at the Yum. And then the Yum worm, you know, the Yum worm floats. In my opinion, kind of the best. If you put this on a shaky head, this Yum worm is standing straight up. You throw this in the lake, it'll float the whole time. It's never going to sink. So, and I like that. But, you know, so that's working out, I think, on the shaky heads a lot. So one thing about the customers, you know, when you come out here, and so what do you do to find bluegill beds? So I had some customers during the week. I took them out and I took them to the bluegill beds, and I spent some time showing them because they were going to be fishing during the week in their own pace with their own boat. They came from Nebraska. And later on, they sent me some good pictures of some fish they caught. You know, they caught a 10-pounder and they caught another 8-pounder. So, you know, really good success. He sent me a text and said, "Hey, this is the best day I've ever had on every day of my life bass fishing." And I was happy to kind of be able to show them how to come in here and target, you know, some of these fish. Now they were throwing it out with some docks too, so they were getting in the shade in that day too with the same, but the big 10-inch worms. They had never thrown worms that big, so you know, it's just was a new thing for them. That really pushed them. That if they were here, they wanted to keep doing that. So, okay, so how do you find the bluegill beds? Go to your map. Look for on the pond dams. Look for any submerged roads. Look for anything that's got some kind of, you know, raised area on it, and then just go with it with your side imaging. Also, even off the main lake points, go back into those like the secondary points back there. See if there's any tiny little outcroppings. That's another place I'm finding some of the bluegill beds that aren't being touched really. So you can go on these secondary points. Look with your side imaging as you're going through. I'm going through kind of pitching and flipping these big worms at these trees, the bigger trees that have the big roots in them, and I'm just using this time to go through and look for these bluegill beds. If I find the bluegill bed and a really concentration of them, I'll start throwing. Look, we had one bed I got broke off there 3 times. Caught one. I took my clients back the next day, and the same fish. Well, I mean, maybe there was a fish, big fish, in the same exact, between the same 2 exact stumps. And I said, "There's the fish. It's sitting right there." They threw a couple times. One of the brothers didn't get it. The other brother threw in there and hooked it, and unfortunately, it got off right at the boat. It was really getting it back to the boat fast and got it up, and it jumped out of the water and shook off. But it was a really nice fish. So that fish is just sitting around those bluegill beds. Those bluegill beds are just feeding stations for these bass. So, you know, so I recommend as a pattern, and if you don't want to go out and through the deep water all the time, spend some time looking at these bluegill beds. Spend some time looking for these shady docks that have some decent amount of water depth under, especially if they got some brush there. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of the difference to the shaky head. So, you know, I've got a couple here to look at. I mean, look, this is the normal shaky head. You know, it's got kind of a flat bottom. You know, you can see it. You want a big screw. I like the ones that have the bigger screws on it than the smaller screw here. It can seem to hold a bait better. You know, you're going to go through your baits with these things, you know. And then you got kind of this is kind of a modified one. You know, it's kind of a football shape, but it's also got the flat bottom. But it's on a straight hook instead of a wide gap. So it's a little different brand. And then, you know, look, these are the Yum ones. The twist in is not as big as I would like it, but I like the wide gap hook a little better. So that's kind of the difference in some of the different ones I'm doing. But I'm generally throwing a 5/0 hook on these big 10-inch worms. I know some people throw these bigger ones, have like 7/0s, but I haven't been doing the 7/0 hook on this. I'm sticking with like a 5/0. So, and then the other thing you can throw around the beds is you get yourself a football jig and you rig it with a bluegill colored trailer. Now again, this is the Lake Fork Trophy Lures Magic Shad. I accidentally called it a Sassy Shad the other day, and it's the Magic Shad. And you know, this trailer looks great on there. You know, what a great bluegill looking bed. You just kind of hop it through those beds and pull it through there. And then I'm also throwing the Lake Fork Trophy Lures Swim Bait Magic Shad, the big 5.5-inch one. But I've got this one on an underspin. And you know, I'm an owner's hook, so it's an owner's hook with an underspin. And I'm kind of I throw it out there, let it go on the bottom, and I just kind of swim it real slow, maybe hopping a little bit through those beds and getting bit on those. So that's kind of what I'm doing, you know. So I already showed you the deep bite I had. I mean, I'm Carolina rigging. I'm throwing worms deep too in some places, but I just haven't got on the bigger fish deep yet right now. Like I said, a couple crankbaits and a couple, you know, only one Alabama, you know, fish. So I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do coming up here. So I'm going to continue to try to get some top water. I'm going to continue to work these bluegill beds. I'm also going to be start throwing some soft plastic shad type baits on owner's hooks. Throw them out there, let them work down into these schools, and try to work them through these schools that way. You know, look, Alabama rigs in the summertime. I mean, it's a great way to catch a number of fish and some big fish. They're so big, if you got the forward-looking sonar, you can just put it right on there. There's no way you can't miss that thing, and you can put it right down on the fish that you're seeing. Big flutter spoons. I'm not going to point out, but you guys seen them. I call it throwing the hubcap, big 8-inch ones. That's another technique. So I'm going to start throwing. I mean, I've thrown it, but I haven't caught one on yet. So, you know, I had a couple bump it, but I don't know what they were, but they didn't get it. And then, so that's only probably the 2 different techniques I'm probably going to add this week. I'm going to try to look a little shallower in some cases I'm going to try to look. I'm going to look a little shallower. I'm not going to try to work in the 20-foot deep area. I'm going to start shallower and not work out as deep as fast as I've been. I've been moving deeper and having, you know, my spot that was I was caught some really good fish off of. That was, you know, bluegill beds and a brush pile in some isolated trees. Like I said, near bluegill beds. You know, I caught that 11 through 3. That's my new PB that I got for myself. And then, you know, I got a couple 8s over 8s in there. So great fishing. That was just me fishing. That was my clients. My clients have had others, but I just, you know, I think I'm going to try to do a little more soft plastic throwing. And, you know, I will say, so I'm getting ready to order. You know, my rod sponsorship is with Lake Fork Trophy. I mean, not sorry, with Temple Fork Outfitters, and they have just got some new rods that I'm going to get and review, and they've got some brand new, you know, BBCs. They're big bait casters, and they're for throwing big glide baits, big swim baits, things like that. And they're brand new, and I'm really looking forward to get my hands on them so I can try out the new rods. And they should be coming up here I guess in a couple days, and if I get a review out on those things. But look, the fishing has been great. It's been hot. We had a little cooler weather, but it's been hot. It's hot in the afternoon, but look, the fish are biting. But I still say if you go in the morning, and you gotta take a break. You gotta go take a 30-minute break. Go over to Lake Fork Marina. Go over to the Oak Ridge. You know, go to any of the place, Axton's, and get out of the water a little bit and maybe get a drink of water. Get yourself some iced tea or something, you know, cool down for a little bit. And then get yourself ginned up for that afternoon fishing, because some of those schools are going to start forming bigger and bigger by in the afternoon, especially if you get days where there's not a lot of wind. You get those days where it's just almost dead calm, and you get out there and the water's going to stratify. We had a thermocline for a while, and it went away. I was seeing it at about 27 feet, and now it's gone. I'll start looking at it again here the next day. I haven't fished in 2 days, and then I'll start looking for it again, and then we'll see if it starts coming around. But I think as there's less wind, more heat, we'll start getting the thermocline again. That's going to push some of those other fish out of that really deep water, and that's when you could really see, I think, that deep point fishing and suspended fish schools getting big. So that's what I'm thinking, and that's what I'm looking forward to doing this next week. So I want to say thank you to a couple people. So I want to say thank you to the people over at Diamond Sports Marina for, you know, taking care of my boat. They're great. They help me out all the time, and I really appreciate everything they do for me. I want to thank the people at Temple Fork Outfitters. Again, they help me out, and it's a great product. It's at a good price point. It's affordable for a fish. I'm throwing their top rod, and it's less than $200. So you can get for my sponsors, you know, I have quantum reels, the top quantum reels, and the top Temple Fork Outfitter rods. So my just top setup that I have, it's less than $400. So, and it's great fishing gear. And, you know, Temple Fork Outfitters has a great warranty, and Quantum has a great warranty. Quantum has just terrific customer service. Every time you come out there, you get a person, they talk to you. Same thing over at Temple Fork Outfitters. So, you know, I really appreciate them. And I want to get a shout out again to Lake Fork Trophy Lures. Remember, they'll give a 10% of your purchase to the Folds of Honor charity if you use the code FOH. And the Folds of Honor is a charity that provides money that goes to veterans' families after the veteran has been killed. He's died in combat, or he's died in training, and his family needs help. And the Folds of Honor is there to help those families. So it's a great cause, and it's something I'm really behind. And I'm looking forward to taking people out from my that I donated the night to the charity, and it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. So anyway, look, I'm Greg Hill. I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. It's starting to get a little late, and I'm really looking forward to getting some rest, because I got to get up early in the morning to get back on the lake first thing, you know, at 6 o'clock in the morning. So look, remember, here at Fort Operating Base Lake, at Fort Operating Base Lake Fork, I'm not going to recut it because it's going to take too long to cut that back in. But look, our motto is leave no fish behind. You guys have a great day fishing, and I hope to see you out of the lake sometime, and give me a call. You guys take care. Step back. Right there. Can't do anything right there. You're going to have to back around. There we go. Oh, that might be bigger. It is. That's a brute. It is. Nope.
Holy God!
Fuck.
Does he have a red hook in his mouth?
I don't know. Right here. Don't lift him up. There we go.
Fuck yeah!
Yeah! Fucking hog.
That's a hog, baby. Hell yeah, brother.
Holy shit. God damn.
Got a red hook in his mouth.